Hello YouTube, my name is Matthew, and I'm doing I'll try to make a quick response video on a video that Kyle Kulinski from Secular Talk uploaded. It's actually less about the particular video in question and more about a argument that I hear Kyle articulate. I've heard him articulate multiple times on his show. So just for a little context, the video is jury sentences Dylan Roof to death, and it was published January 12th, 2017. Now, the particulars of his case, of Dylan Roof's case, really don't matter for the sake of this video, because he pleaded guilty to all charges and was given 9 consecutive life sentences without parole. He was sentenced to death originally and pleaded guilty, and then he got that sentencing instead. So the particulars of his case really don't matter. The law acted the way it did. What's done is done. He wasn't put to death. He'll just be in jail until he dies. So, Kyle, he gives an argument which, it's kind of, there's 2 parts to it. So, he says, in practice, I am against the death penalty because I think it's about 4% of the time you get the wrong people. So 4% of the time, the people killed by the death penalty are innocent. And so Kyle says, for that reason, I am against the death penalty. Kyle and I agree on this. I am also against the death penalty and the fact that innocent people are killed in the process of executing the death penalty, no pun intended, is absurd. It's atrocious. There's no excusing it. But then Kyle goes on to say something which I just don't understand at all. He says, in theory, I am not against the death penalty if we know the person committed the crime and it's a horrendous crime and there's no possibility of rehabilitation. So I just disagree with this on principle. I am against the death penalty on principle, not just because we sometimes get the wrong people, although that is a factor. I am against the death penalty in principle. Just because someone committed a horrendous crime, just because we know they did, I don't think you can. I don't think that gives the state the right to say, okay, your life is therefore just because you committed this crime, we take it upon ourselves to say we have the right to end your life. And what really got under my skin was Kyle said that you're advocating for the perpetrator and you're siding with the perpetrator if you don't want that perpetrator to be put to death, and we know that perpetrator did what he did, and it was something really, really awful. And I facepalmed when I heard that. What are you saying? Come again? No, Kyle, I'm not advocating for the perpetrator. I'm not siding with the perpetrator. In the case of Dylan Roof in particular, I have no love for Dylan Roof. I don't care about Dylan Roof particularly. But anybody who committed a terrible crime, I don't have any love for those people either. it's not me advocating for that person. It's me advocating for a overall principle. I think in a civil society, we need to say, in that context, we need to say we're going to take the high road, and we are going to spare that person's life, because I think everybody, we need to preserve the sanctity of life whenever possible. Now, that's not always possible. You can't always live out your principles to the letter. I understand that. You could say that Abraham Lincoln, for example, executed some people during the Civil War. Now, I think he pardoned more people than he executed, but he did execute some people. And I would say, well, that was a very special circumstance. I mean, the U.S. was in a frickin' Civil War. No one knew the outcome. It was desperate times call for desperate measures, I guess would be the cliche way of putting it. Now, I'm not sure I believe that. I'm not sure that other people should believe that, but I can see an argument. I can see a purely philosophical argument being made that, well, okay, in certain circumstances that are just really unique, like in the case of a civil war or in the case of a war overall, you have to either put some people or a person to death, or you need to send soldiers out to the battlefields, inevitably leading to some of them dying. So, in certain situations, you have to think about what cost you're willing to incur. You have to think about whether the loss of human life in certain circumstances is worth it. I understand that. But in the case of a society that is not at war, in the case of a society that is not under extreme stress, for whatever reasons, I do not think we should have the death penalty on the books. And Kyle agrees with me. But it just really bothers me that he said that if you, on principle, are advocating that a criminal doesn't get put to death, you're advocating and siding with the perpetrator. That just, no, Kyle, you don't understand the argument. I am making an overarching, abstract, theoretical point that I don't want to live in a society in which the state gives itself the right to kill people under normal circumstances. I have trouble sleeping at night knowing I live in a country that gives itself that right. And think about this for a second. If your goal is punishment, I can't think of anything more punishing than saying, let the bastards rot. You're almost letting them off the hook when you kill them. I could make that argument. I could say you're letting them off the hook when you kill them, because when you kill them, they're gone forever. They don't have to think about what they did ever again. But if you don't kill them, if you keep them stuck in a cage until their last breath, until their dying breath, that means they are forced to come to terms with the consequences of their heinous actions. They will if they do something, truly awful, they'll never be let out of that cage. They have to wear prison uniforms. They have to follow a regime, a regimented schedule, probably eat pretty crappy food. They will never know what it's like to be a free person again. There's nothing more punishing than that. So if punishment is what you're looking for, Kyle, then I would think you would come to my position and say, not only am I against the death penalty because it kills the wrong people sometimes, I'm against the death penalty overall because I really want them to feel that punishment of being trapped in a cage for the rest of their existence. So I hope, Kyle wouldn't be listening to this video, but if he is, hi Kyle. I hope I made my point forcefully, and I hope that I didn't mischaracterize him. Again, he is against the death penalty, but in situations where we know the person committed the crime, and there is no hope for rehabilitation, he is for the death penalty in principle. And that is our fundamental disagreement. I am not for the death penalty in principle or in practice. But generally, Kyle is a very intelligent man. I respect him. I agree with him most of the time. And it kind of bothers me that he would stoop down to sloppy arguments like this, even though, practically speaking, he is on the right side. Actually, one more thing, one more quick thing, and then I'll end this video. When it comes to rehabilitation, I think we should always try to rehabilitate people. There are people who are beyond the pale, who are without question beyond help. There are people like that out there. But I think in most cases we should try to rehabilitate people. We should try to set them down and really help them think about why what they did was so wrong. Because I have a respect for. I don't remember who said this. I didn't come up with this. I think it was Neil deGrasse Tyson. Though this was in a very different context. Neil deGrasse Tyson said, "I have a respect for what everyone can become," and I would go along with that in this context. I have a respect for what everyone can become, even if that person did something that is just inexcusable. But again, even if they are not, there's no chance of rehabilitating them, I would still say, in the context of a civil society, we need to put our money where our mouth is and say, okay, we're not going to put this person to death. And I'm not a religious person, but it is amazing to me that there are people out there who agree with me, actually, but a lot of them are Christians. A lot of them are very religious people who say, Kyle brings up this fact. The church where Dylan Roof killed all those people said he should not be executed. And I just find that so powerful. I find that so liberating. It is almost as if those patrons are going beyond the animalistic instinct for revenge, which is very powerful, or which can be very powerful. And they're saying, no, we are not going to take the attitude of I want revenge. We're going to take the attitude of we're not going to kill somebody even if they killed another person, perhaps somebody that we truly loved. We're going to say the buck stops here, and in this context, we are not going to advocate for that person's execution. So, thank you for listening, and take care.